Hello, good afternoon and welcome to The Pulse. We're coming to you live from our studios here at Kokomlemle. We're live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 125 and around the world on myjoyonline.com. My name is Faustina Safo. This afternoon on The Pulse, heavy security presence in Nalerigu as police deploys more officers and armored vehicles following renewed clashes among residents. We have details plus take you live to the Upper East region for the very latest on the situation. Also this afternoon, the Pulse Parliament brings a chaotic year to a close today, ending the third meeting before the Christmas break, with the appropriation bill expected to be passed. We'll take you live to Parliament for details. Also this afternoon, the Pulse Ladade Koptopon and Ayawasu North become air pollution hotspots as environmental scientists complete mapping of pollution hotspots in Accra.
We recorded somewhere around 240 micrograms per cubic meters. In Ladade Koptopon, we recorded 8 times the level prescribed by World Health Organization. And a particular site of interest is the La Mali community.
These and more we have coming up here on The Pulse. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Deaf and Drill Cough Expectorant. Deaf and Drill, breathe easy, feel better. My name is Faustina Safo. Please stay for details. We'll be right back after this quick turn. Thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. This afternoon, there is heavy security presence in Nalerigu in the northeast region, following fresh clashes among the youth in the area. The renewed clashes on Thursday resulted in the burning of 2 houses, with one faction threatening a retaliation attack. The situation has compelled the Ghana Police Service to deploy additional personnel and equipment to restore calm and prevent further escalation. Here are excerpts from the police statement coming up on your screen shortly. On your screens, the statement from the Ghana Police Service. It says the IGP deploys reinforcement and armored vehicles to Nalerigu. It states that the Inspector General of Police has deployed reinforcement teams and armored vehicles to Nalerigu and its environs in the northeast region, following the setting ablaze of 2 houses by some youth in the regional capital, Nalerigu, and threats to burn more houses and attack citizens of the area. The deployment is aimed at restoring calm, according to the police statement, protecting lives and property, and beefing up security in the affected communities, as well as enforcing the curfew imposed by the Nalerigu and on Nalerigu, I beg your pardon, and its environs by the government. The teams will also support the Northeast Regional Police Command to intensify security on the highways to ensure safety of commuters. It goes on to state that the command would like to assure the general public and the people of Nalerigu in particular that investigations into the attacks and burning of houses are ongoing and persons involved will be arrested and brought to justice. And that statement is signed by the head of Public Affairs Unit for the Northeast region, Robert Anabi. Well, just as stated in that statement, the ministry has also put together a renewed curfew in the area, the Interior Ministry, and that is starting from 5 p.m. to 6 a.m. every day. It started last night. Let's take you live now to the northeast region and speak to our correspondent who is on the ground, Ilias Utango. We appreciate your time. You've been doing your checks. How are residents responding to the curfew?
Well, just a bit of clarification. There was a violent disturbances in the Nalerigu township leading to the burning of the residence belonging to one of the elders of the Nairi. And there was also threats to attack and burn more houses belonging to more elders of the overlord of the Mampurugu traditional area. Today, since the imposition of the curfew, there is a heavy deployment of security forces in around the Nalerigu township. And I can tell you that from the morning till now, there have been full restoration of law and order in Nalerigu township. the military and the police have taken over almost every part of the township. There is barriers that have been mounted on the roads where travelers or people who are coming in and out are searched. As we speak, there's also complete ban on riding of bicycles and the wearing of the fugu cloth in the Nalerigu area. I have been with the military patrolling that particular area, and I saw several dozens of motorbikes that have been seized, and that is people that are flouting these particular regulations that have been put in place by the security forces. So there's a heavy intensification of security in and around the area, and I can tell you that they have been able to reestablish law and order in the regional capital here.
And then we know that the regional minister is locked up in a RedSec meeting. Have you been picking any information as to what exactly they're discussing?
Well, that meeting has been ongoing since yesterday. The regional minister himself, there have been some reinforcement of security in his residence, as well as the residence of some traditional leaders, apparently because there was fears that the regional minister's house could also be targeted. And so, yes, they are currently in a meeting discussing the way forward and how to ensure that the military or the security forces themselves, the police and the military, are able to restore calm in the township. And like I said, they have gotten support, according to the military leaders, they have gotten support from the Regional Coordinating Council, and that is helping them to reestablish law and order in Nalerigu.
And how are residents reacting to the presence of the police in the area?
Well, it's been a very difficult moment for them, at least, because there have been restrictions imposed. And like I said, people that are coming in and out of the town would have to be searched, and they would have to sometimes alight from their vehicles and walk past the checks that have been mounted by the security forces. Nonetheless, today is a market day, and I can see economic activities are ongoing, except people that are trying to leave the town or come in the town, they are facing a bit of restrictions. I've spoken with a number of residents. They are saying that, well, this is a difficult moment for them, but it's also necessary to reestablish a law and order so that they could go about their business freely without any fear.
And has there been any arrests so far by the police?
Well, we have been informed about some arrests that have been made. We are yet to get that details from the police, and there have also been seizure of several dozens of motorbikes, and like I said, people who have flouted that particular regulations, their motorbikes have been seized. Yes, I can say that there have been some arrests, but we are yet to get the details of how many people are involved and exactly what their crime was.
Thank you so much. Ilyasu Tanko is our Northeast Regional Correspondent. While still on security, Interior Minister Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak has urged the police officers to manage resources efficiently, emphasizing that government support must be matched by responsibility and responsible performance. Speaking at the commissioning of the new regional police headquarters in Wa, he acknowledged the sacrifices of the officers and reaffirmed government's commitment to retooling officers and provide dignified, affordable accommodation for them. Rafiq Salam reports from Wa.
This colonial relic for decades serves as a Wa police station, district and divisional police headquarters. The narrative did not change even when the Upper West region was partitioned from the then Upper region over 4 decades ago. First-time visitors to the police station often get confused as to which place is the municipal police command or the regional command and where your complaint could be addressed. And some of the officers' personnel attend to victims crammed and huddled together on weak chairs on benches that have crooked stands. The narrative, however, will change following the commissioning of an ultra-modern state-of-the-art Upper West Regional Police Command at Sombo by Interior Minister Alhaji Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak. Upper West Regional Police Commander DCOP Francis Iribare noted that successive administrations for decades have worked tirelessly to securing a befitting regional police headquarters for the region. That dream, according to him, however, took a major step by then Inspector General of the Ghana Police Service, Mohammed Al-Hassan, who broke the ground on November 25, 2014 for work to begin. DCOP Francis Iribare paid glowing tribute to all, including former IGP Dr. Akufo Dampare and current IGP Christian Tete Yohunu and the contractor Don Barak Ghana Limited, who worked tirelessly to ensure that the dream is realized.
That this whole dream and institutional commitment would have been a mirage, but for the timely intervention and instrumentality of the overlord of the Wala traditional area, Na Hussein Seydou Elpo IV, who personally oversaw the acquisition of the lands for the project to proceed. In Bana Jambi, ladies and gentlemen, the project received tremendous support and goodwill from very many notable sons and daughters of this region. Of particular mention, permit me, is the Yusua Ghana Limited and its managing director Alhaji Yusuf Yakubu, whose early commitment and material mobilization provided a critical support that sustained the project at its inception.
Interior Minister Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak asserted that the project is a testament of continuity, a powerful reminder that nation building is a relay, adding that leadership must not erase the efforts of predecessors, singling out former Upper West Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz bin Sali for praise. Alhaji Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak posited that government was aware of the sacrifices made by security personnel across the country and is determined to giving them dignified, affordable accommodation.
We are fully aware that a well-equipped police officer must also be a well-accommodated one. That is why we are rolling out a comprehensive program to improve the residential condition of officers across the country, from Accra to Bolotanga, from the coastal barracks to the hinterland. Government is mindful of the sacrifices made by our brave men and women in uniform, and we are determined to give them dignified, portable accommodation that matches the weight of their duty.
The Interior Minister, however, expect them to up the ante.
Be better managers of the resources entrusted to you. Every office out there must be maintained. Every vehicle deployed must be handled with care. Every communication device, every piece of equipment, every facility, including this beautiful edifice, must be protected, preserved, and used efficiently.
With the commissioning of the new regional police headquarters, Upper West Regional Minister Lawyer Charles Wongo Pozung calls for an increase in the number of police force in the region to take care of the growing security threats.
Honorable Minister for the Interior, I humbly appeal that as this facility is commissioned, the Ministry ensures an increased deployment of personnel, trained, motivated, and adequately resourced to match the growing security needs of the region.
Representing the Inspector General of the Ghana Police Service, Christian Tete Yohunu, was Director General Technical, COP, Dr. Sayu Pabi Garaba.
I stand to assure the people of Upper West Region that this headquarters building represents a new commitment to serve the people of Upper West Region with maximum commitment, maximum dedication to serve the community.
Reporting for J News, Rafiq Salam.
Let's head to Parliament now. The House is set to conclude what has been termed by many as a chaotic year, both on the floor and outside, from brawls at the appointments committee to insults caught on live microphones and chaos on the floor of Parliament. The first meeting of the night Parliament has mirrored the disorder of the 8th Parliament. We'll take you live to Parliament shortly, but first, here's a report from my colleague James Aveji highlighting the chaotic scenes on the floor so far this year.
The troubles of this first session of the 9th Parliament started with the chaos that erupted on the night of the vetting of the Minister for Health, Kwabena Mintah Kando. Speaker Alban Bagbin moved swiftly into action by suspending 4 MPs, including the chief whips from both sides, Roxanne Nelson Dapamekbo and Frank Anodompre. Besides that, the Speaker also set up a 7-member committee chaired by Ho West MP Emmanuel Kofi Bejra to investigate the matter. Although the committee had finished and submitted its report, Parliament is yet to take action on the recommendations of that report. Again, the search for the Member of Parliament who made what Speaker Alban Bagbin described as a reckless, deeply offensive and dishonorable comment on the floor of Parliament on the night of February 4th, referring to Dr. Zaneto Ajiman Rawlings as daughter of a murderer, is still on. 10 months on, it is still unclear whether the MP has been found, as Parliament is yet to take any punitive action against the one who made the statement. The latest incident that sum up issues under investigation is the Speaker's referral of the Minority Leader Alexander Penyumakin to the Privileges Committee over allegations of contempt of Parliament raised by the Majority Leader Mahama Ayariga over the Minority Leader's defiance to represent at the ECOWAS Parliament despite the House's resolution to remove him from the delegation. These matters aside, however, the legislature has been able to execute a number of key businesses in fulfillment of the government's campaign promises. They include the Road Traffic Amendment Bill 2025 to legalize Okada, tax reforms to repeal e-levy and the COVID-19 levy, Ghana Gold Board Act, which set up the Gold Board, Get Fund Amendment Act for free tertiary education for persons with disabilities, and free tuition for all first years, among others. The House is also within schedule to pass the Appropriation Act to wrap up the approval for government spending in 2026. James Aveji, Parliament House, Accra.
My colleague James Aveji filed that report just gone by, and we will be taking you to Parliament shortly. We'll be engaging our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, Kwikwa Sante. A lot of things have come up on the floor of Parliament, especially the lithium deal. We'll be giving you updates on that and also what we should expect today. Parliament will be sitting for the last time before they take the Christmas break. So a lot of things will come up on the floor of Parliament. We'll take you there live shortly. We'll also be engaging different individuals on their thoughts about the performance of the 9th Parliament. Our discussions moving forward, we'll be looking at their performance, the chaotic scenes we've seen on the floor of Parliament, and also what to expect in the coming year. Well, away from that, the Education Minister Haruna Idrisu said he's worried about the prolonged strike by CTAG, which stems from government's failure to fully implement the association's 2023 conditions of service. According to him, the situation is currently taking a toll on academic activities in various schools. CTAG declared the strike on Monday, November 24, citing government's persistent delay in implementing the National Labour Commission's arbitral award that was actually issued as far back as May 2, 2024. However, speaking at an event in Accra where 20 vehicles were presented to selected colleges of education across the country, the minister said discussions are ongoing with the Ministry of Finance to resolve the concerns raised by the teachers. Fatal Bayaga reports.
As part of efforts to improve efficiency and mobility across the various colleges of education in the country, Education Minister Haruna Idrisu has today presented 20 vehicles to the various principals of these colleges. This is part of the first batch of this particular initiative.
As part of President Mohammed's reset, we intend to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the heads of institutions, particularly in your monitoring and supervision role. This gesture of GTEC I should thank the Director General and Chair of Council, and in particular also thank Govt for supporting the initiative.
He also said steps are underway to address the concerns of SITAC in terms of their conditions of service.
SITAC, I'm reminded, is still on strike. We need industrial peace and harmony on the campuses of learning. When you prolong your strike action, it does affect career planning and the career path development of the young people. I discussed with Honorable Finance Minister and even this morning, I woke up to the same matter. We are mobilizing the 41 million to pay. So it is not as if we are not committed to pay. Last month when teachers didn't get some allowances, they should celebrate President Mahama who paid the allowances. Any of you who went to take your salary this month, those two outstanding allowances that were not paid by the controller have been honored.
Meanwhile, the board chairman of GTEC, Professor Mahama Dewejua, said this is a good initiative in terms of helping academic activities in these colleges of education.
These cars is just not vehicles for movement, but for us is a very significant thing to contribute towards the provision of quality education for colleges of education.
For the various principals of these beneficiary institutions, this will help them in improving their mobility.
We've been suffering with mobility. The only vehicle we had was involved in an accident which took the life of our late principal. And so even when we were doing the inauguration of councils, our council chairman mentioned it. And so for us, we are grateful to the government.
I'm so excited. You know, the last time the colleges were given vehicles, official vehicles, were somewhere in 2007. So it's been a very long time. The one we currently use is not functional. Sometimes you have to board commercial vehicle coming from all the way from Enchi, which is in the Western North region, to Accra.
Reporting for Joy News, Fatau Bayaga, Accra.
Well, join me now is the president of the Colleges of Education Teachers Association, Maxwell Bunu. We appreciate your time here on The Pulse. First, I'm sure that you've been listening to Haruna Idrisu. Government says they're dialoguing with you. What's the update on that dialogue?
Well, good afternoon to you and your listeners. Yes, we have so much respect for the Minister for Education, Honorable Haruna Idrisu. But our issues have not been addressed the way we wanted them to be dealt with. As I say with you, effort is being made to pay our all-year-round work compensation for additional duty performed in the year 2022. The money trickles in, and we still have about 10 colleges that have not received any amount at all, and also about 4 colleges that have received part of the money. And the money we are talking about in terms of the all-year-round work compensation, this is just 1 month equivalent of our salary that needed to be paid to us. The 2023-24 book research allowance arrears, nothing has been heard about that at all. Then the issue that is in contention is the 2022-23, which we believe we are justified in making that demand. I thought that the minister would have called a meeting to listen to us. Unfortunately, I realize that the minister is rather listening more to the regulator, who is not providing all the information that he needed to hear than with the association that is affected.
Have you made attempts to get in touch with the minister?
The issues are not being resolved the way we wanted them to be resolved. And I think the earlier the minister called a meeting to probably get additional briefing, the better. Because the last time we met him, he was quite tight. He was swamped with a lot of activities. So we didn't spend much time with him. So that's what I can say for now.
Have you made attempts after that meeting you just made mention of to reach out to the minister and table your concerns before him?
Yeah, I'm currently making that effort, getting in touch with the Supreme Court President, Professor Tintunu. I think he also has some tight schedule, so there's a need for me to reach out to him again. He said that they have some other activities today. So when that is done, I'm sure by this evening I'll reach out to him again and see if we can reconvene another meeting with the Minister for Education so that we can have the issue properly addressed.
But then, so far, are you going to be calling off your industrial action anytime soon?
My dear sister, SITAG has come far with these issues, and I want to place on record that members of SITAG are tired on embarking on strike. We do not want to disturb the public peace, suspending this strike, and then the next time again they'll hear that SITAG is on strike. We wish to place on record again that we are firm, resolute. The strike continues unabated until these issues are resolved, and we want to get them resolved once and for all. I think it's even in the best interest of the Minister for Education to get these issues resolved once and for all. That is what we want to do.
Thank you so much, Max Bonu. So based on what you're telling us, until these issues are resolved, you will not be returning to the classrooms?
Not at all. Not at all. We needed to sit down again and get the issues resolved properly. The piecemeal approach to resolving the issue is not helping anyone. So we are calling on the minister that we want to have another meeting with him, and I will try to reach out to Professor Tintunu again so that we meet with him and get this issue resolved once and for all. We can't suspend this strike and next time embark on another strike. Not at all. I think the students are even tired of our strike.
Thank you so much, Max Bonu, for your time here on The Pulse. Well, let me take you back to Parliament. I told you that the House is set to conclude sitting today. The year many have termed it as chaotic on the floor of Parliament. And we'll be crossing over shortly to engage my colleague, Kweku Asante, who is our parliamentary affairs correspondent. But let me just bring in two individuals that have monitored the parliamentary space for a while. The former Tamale Central Member of Parliament, Inusa Fuseni, as well as Osei Mensa Bonsu, former Majority Leader, just to get the assessment of the performance of the 9th Parliament. I would like to start with Inusa Fuseni. What's your assessment of the work of the 9th Parliament so far?
Well, thank you for having me and my good friend, Chairman Sabonsu, the former Majority Leader, former Minister for Parliamentary Affairs. Well, so the 9th Parliament of the 4th Republic of Ghana started on a very shaky note. We were all witnesses to the disturbances that occurred during the vetting processes and the fact that some tables were broken. In fact, they were fisticuffs here and there. I mean, very unparliamentary in this nature. We condemned the act and thought that they will get their act together. Somehow managed to stabilize and apologize to the Ghanaian people, all of us, and said they had learned their lessons. The committee was set up by Speaker Babwin. We are yet to see the report of that committee. Then the things started stabilizing. Parliament was going about their duties. And just recently, we again saw what happened in Parliament on the back of the Pandai High Court decision and the letter written by the clerk to Parliament, to the Electoral Commission announcing the occurrence of a vacancy. So those two events clearly defined Parliament in its first term as a Parliament that was still looking to stabilize themselves and get their footing on how to conduct parliamentary debates and relate to each other in a more civil manner.
I see. And then some of the key things that Parliament have been able to accomplish. Let's look at some of the passage of the bills, some good things. We saw the scrapping of the COVID-19 levy during the session of this 9th Parliament, the e-levy as well. But then some of the bills we're looking forward to are yet to come up on the floor of Parliament, the controversial LGBTQI plus bill. Your thoughts on that?
Well, so bill comes to Parliament by two routes, a private member's bill and a public bill. The COVID-19 bill and all the scrapping of COVID-19 levy, the taxes that was promised by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama during the debate and captured in the budget for 2024 was a government policy, and that came with public bills. I mean, so those bills were debated. I mean, members of Parliament on both sides had their say on the floor of the House. They did not generate a lot of confusion because this was a manifesto promise, and so even though the minority disagreed that the intent of the removal of the bills was far-fetched and that it could impose some difficulties on the economy of the state, the majority in government was resolute that it needed to remove those bills to mitigate the hardship on the people of this country. So those bills passed off largely without any problem, just like the approval of the 2024 budget, 2025 budget. Now, the other route is the private members bill, and I've got my difficulties with that bill, but be it as it may, the bill was passed by the last parliament, the 8th parliament. Nana Addo Akufo-Addo refused to assent to the bill. The bill stayed with Nana Akufo-Addo until it lapsed, or the effluxion of time of the 8th parliament. And so, to all intents and purposes, there is no bill for John Dramani Mahama to sign. I mean, if the bill is presented to John Dramani Mahama to sign, that could raise jurisprudential issues because John Dramani Mahama was not the president of the 8th. Was not the president when the 8th Parliament passed that bill. And the Parliament, the current Parliament, is not also the Parliament that considered the bill. So it raises some jurisprudential matters, and that is why many people are arguing that the bill ought to be reintroduced into Parliament. And I share in that view because of the difficulties that a bill that was passed by the 8th Parliament could have if you present such a bill to the current president, who is the president, the president in office during the tenure of this 9th Parliament. And so clearly, Parliament will have to look at the possibility, and the sponsors of the bill will have to look at the possibility of reintroducing the bill in Parliament because, I have the opinion that the bill has lapsed and so has to be reintroduced in Parliament.
And the Speaker agrees with you on that score because even when the majority leader raised it on the floor of Parliament, the Speaker ruled that indeed they would have to trigger the process all over again because of that. But then let's also look at this whole controversy about the vacancy of the Kwandai seats. We know that the court has ruled, suspending the upcoming rerun. But let's just look at the representation in Parliament, the minority side versus the majority side, and how Kwandai seat and the controversy surrounding it can influence the next term in Parliament.
When you look at parliamentary elections, and particularly the seats that were given to the NDC in the last election, clearly the people of Ghana expected the NDC to reset the country and try to remove all obstacles to the reset agenda. That is how you read parliamentary elections. Because the reset agenda was on the ballot. The corruption was on the ballot. The state of our state institutions or government institutions was on the budget. On the ballot. And so when John Dramani Mahama promised the people of this country that his government will reset this country on the trajectory of growth and development and responsibility and accountability with transparency underlying all these things. the people thought to be able to do that, you needed an overwhelming majority. And so they gave the NDC overwhelming majority to remove any obstacle that could stand in its way. That's how governance institutions governance experts look at the end result of the parliamentary election. Now, so it was not by accident. It was intentional, deliberately delivered by the people of this country. Now, the Pandai seat, when you read Article 112, Clause 5 of the Constitution, you'll be left in no doubt that it is the clerk of Parliament that has the mandate and authority to inform the Electoral Commission of the occurrence of a vacancy. And I said it on your platform long before the Supreme Court suspended the holding of the elections on the 30th of December. I had said that having triggered the process under Article 1125 of the Constitution, it was not the drumming of tables or the clapping of hands or chaotic behavior displayed in Parliament that could stop the process. To my mind, the only institution that could stop the process was the court. And I was of the firm view that being a constitutional process, it was only the Supreme Court who could suspend or arrest the process. And the Supreme Court has clearly demonstrated that power and have arrested the process to ensure that the matters in court are disposed of before the Electoral Commission can even trigger the process of holding a rerun for the Pandai seat. So, in matters of this nature, and similarly, I have said that the decision of the High Court, Tamale, is a decision of a court of first instance. And the Constitution does not presume that that decision is final. And that is why the Constitution grants a losing party, or a party aggrieved by the decision of a High Court in an election matter, an appeal to the Court of Appeal. It is only when the Court of Appeal pronounces by the decision in the Nimakan case that the decision on an election petition becomes final. In other words, it is only the Court of Appeal that has the final say in an election petition matter. And so I did not see the need for people attacking, and particularly the minority leader, attacking the judiciary, because he's a lawyer and he knows that it's a court of first instance. And because of the training that we have received as lawyers, we know that the decision of a high court can be faulted on legal grounds. Now, and that is why they filed, and they know that, and that is why they filed a stay of execution after the High Court delivered its judgment and also appealed the decision of the High Court. So I thought that if they were not looking at the Supreme Court to arrest the letter informing the Electoral Commission of the occurrence of a vacancy, one way they could arrest the effect or consequences of the letter written to the Electoral Commission was to push for the hearing of the stay of execution of the judgment of the High Court Tamale. Both ways, both cases are now being pursued. The Supreme Court has given a ruling on a matter that has to do with the letter that has been delivered by the clerk to Parliament to the Electoral Commission. And the arguments have been heard in the application for stay of execution at the High Court Tamale. And so we must await the decision of the High Court Tamale, and the Supreme Court has said that the certiorari application that was filed will be moved in January. And it stands to reason, if you look at the decision of the Supreme Court to halt the process, because the Electoral Commission had said that the rerun of the Pandai elections will occur on the 30th of December. Now, that meant there was a potential negatory judgment or effect of a judgment of the Supreme Court if the decision was not arrested. And so one cannot conduct himself or herself in a way as to render the judgment of a court negative, unimportant, or useless. And so the Supreme Court had to arrest that process, ensure that their decision on the 13th of January or thereabouts will inform the way forward in the Kwandai case.
And finally, what's your expectation of this parliament, even as they end sitting today?
Well, I'm sure in both cases that I've referred to, in the vetting case where they broke tables and attacked each other, and in the recently chaotic scene that we witnessed in Parliament, members of Parliament would have learned their lessons carefully. But we must await the report of the committee set up by Speaker Bagbin to look into the matter. You see, we must at all times condemn the behavior of people which behavior is not founded in law and civility. And also deprecate impunity. We must condemn impunity. We must not encourage that. We must hold people accountable and responsible for their actions. And I think that Parliament, or members of Parliament, are not above responsibility and accountability.
Thank you so much, Inusa Fuseni, is former Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. And we will be joined shortly by a former majority leader, I will say Chairman Sabunsu, who would also be picking his thoughts about his assessment of the performance of the 9th Parliament, even as they end sitting today. We'll also be taking you live to Parliament. My colleague Kwekwa Asante is on standby just to give us a wrap of some of the key things that are happening in Parliament. But moving on, whilst we wait for them to join the conversation, the environmental scientists mapping air pollution across Accra have identified La Ayawasu North and at least 3 other districts as major air pollution hotspots. The pollution revealed in the report shows that pollution levels in some areas were sometimes 8 times higher than the World Health Organization recommended levels. The Managing Director of PSS Urbania, Dr. Joseph Aitio, said household fuel use as well as indiscriminate burning are key drivers of the pollution, and is urging authorities to focus action on the most affected communities. He spoke to my colleague Michael Ashali.
We recorded somewhere around 240 micrograms per cubic meters. In Ladade-Kotopong, we recorded 8 times the level prescribed by World Health Organization. And a particular site of interest is the La Mali community, where there's a lot of kinky production. And most of the women who use firewood and coconut husk to burn a source of fuel to burn, the smoke levels are that dangerous, and that led to those kinds of levels. Then we also have the Kwashiman cluster of schools that also recorded more than 2 times the levels as prescribed by the World Health Organization, and almost and slightly above what the EPA requirement was, particulate matter 10. 4 sites were of particular interest. The rest were below, but 4 particular sites. Ablekuma North, particularly Kwashiman cluster of schools, where there's an open playing field and then nearby construction activities. Okaikwe North, particularly Abufu Junction, where there's a lot of vehicle spraying and burning of metals and plastic waste. Ladade-Kotopong, again, particularly because of the activities that I mentioned. And then Ayawasu Central. Then we also measured sulfur dioxide and nitrogen dioxide. Those are gases. The sources of pollution for those gases usually are emissions from biomass burning or vehicular, like diesel engines and open waste burning. When we measured those gases, there were concentrations above the World Health and EPA guidelines were significantly higher in 10 out of the 30 MMDs.
Well, the story you just watched was in collaboration with New Narratives, and funding was provided by Clean Air Fund, which had no say whatsoever in the story's content. Well, let's explore that further. Joining me now is Dr. Elvis Jibwa. He is the Portfolio Manager for Breathe Cities Accra, and he joins the conversation as we just look at some of the key things that have come up and why exactly we should pay attention to this. We're expanding the conversation a bit. Just a little background as to what they do. Breathe Accra has supported several organizations to collect air quality data, and based on that data, we're having a conversation here on the Pulse. We appreciate your time. You've been doing your digging, and based on the data you have, I'm wondering how dire is the situation here in Accra?
Thank you very much. Currently, what we would say is the current numbers on the air pollution situation in Accra shows that annually 32,000 people die as a result of air pollution-related diseases. What it means is that we're recording more deaths from air pollution in Ghana as compared to COVID, which put the whole nation on lockdown, as compared to HIV on an annual basis. So we do have some shocking numbers when you look at them. And it's not news when we look at the activities that is around us, the vehicle fumes that we see on the roads, the construction management that we see. It's obvious that not much or enough is not being done to arrest the problem of air pollution. And that is what has informed most of the work that we've been doing, as well as the reports that was done by PS Sabania on air pollution across the city of Accra.
And then based on your research, what are the biggest drivers really for air pollution, especially in the capital?
We can stick to three key ones: biomass and waste burning. It's so indiscriminate that it's not something you can associate with a specific neighborhoods. In that if you go to areas like Abofu, if you go to areas like Nima, like Ashaiman, there's significant waste burning. But interestingly, if you go to areas like Cantonment, Airport Residential, there is also biomass burning, where they are burning vegetation from grass and tree cuts and hedge cuts. And so almost every part of this city has some form of either waste or biomass being burnt, polluting the air. Next to that is a high number of vehicles we have in the city. These vehicles are often poorly serviced, they are old vehicles, and they emit a lot of fumes. These fumes contain particulate matter 2.5, which is highly dangerous to children, pregnant women, older generation, and people with underlying conditions like asthma and other respiratory-related diseases. The third of this is when it comes to construction and road dust. There's a lot of construction within the city such that the way it's managed becomes a menace. Key of them currently is what's happening on the Tema motorway. Dust from the motorway construction is so much that you can literally see the dust build up if you stood there for more than 30 minutes. It was not any different when construction was happening on the Pokwasi stretch. And it's not just the road constructions. Then there's the building constructions. Then there's the untarred roads, which also contributes to air pollution. These are the three top sources of air pollution within the city of Accra.
And then just looking at how dire the situation is, how can I even protect myself? Is there a way to ensure that the air I'm inhaling is even clean?
There's what we can do. And for the work that we're trying to do, what we're telling people is it's not just government coming in to do something all the time. It's also the little you can do. When you step out to go from one area to the other or one location to your destination, there are tools you can use now in Accra, provided by the EPA, provided by the work that Breathe Cities and Clean Air Fund are doing, where you can go on breatheaccra.org and it will tell you the pollution level at where you are and even at where you're going. And you can be able to tell if you need to wear a nose mask, if you need to protect yourself. The other option is the EPA has a website called AQIinfo-GH, which was launched last month, where they provide air pollution data for Tema and parts of Accra. This also tells us about pollution levels. And so when you decide to move from point A to point B, the first and basic protection you can use for yourself, if you're not in an area that has controlled air like air condition, you can get a nose mask. It can protect you to a long way. There's also our children in schools who play on fields that are not grassed or vegetated. What it means is that for most periods that children spend in school, they are breathing in air that is polluted. And key example is the Kwashiman cluster of schools. Construction and bare parks around the school means that children go to school to get education and end up missing school because of air pollution issues. And these are things which have become almost non-negotiable, that it's important for parents, for everyone to say, if you see someone burning around you, you don't need the government to come and tell them. You should find a nice way and tell them, can you please not burn? It's causing a lot of health issues to pregnant women, to children, to the elderly. And so we can do something collectively, whilst we are hoping that the government will find the needed resources to address this on a policy level and on a national level. In our own small ways, we can wear a nose mask. We can tell our driver, can you please go service your vehicle so it doesn't smoke so much? These are some of the little things we can do to protect ourselves.
And then you made mention of something that really got me concerned. Sitting under the air condition for so long, like I do myself, does that put me at risk?
Sitting under the air condition protects you from the dust. If we're looking at just air pollution.
Okay.
However, what it becomes is that there are other pollutants that you are going to be exposed to, like aerosols, because when you don't ventilate your room, if you have an issue of radon, which is a radioactive gas, you could be poisoning yourself also. And so it's not advisable that you stay continuously in an air-conditioned room without any ventilation. It's mostly advisable that if your office or home is air-conditioned, periodically open the windows, let's get some fresh air coming in to ventilate the place so you can breathe in air that is not polluted from other indoor sources of air pollution.
I see, quite interesting. But then as Breathe Africa, you also, I see you have a target to yourself. You want to reduce air pollution by some 30%. How is that project ongoing, and so far what have you been able to achieve?
So Brief Cities is an initiative that's between Bloomberg Philanthropies, Clean Air Fund, and C40 cities. In Africa, we're currently in Accra, in Nairobi, and then also in Johannesburg. We're hoping that by focusing on cities that has high population numbers, we're going to be able to protect the large majority of the population. We're also going to be able to achieve a lot more, because cities are becoming a concentrated area where you will find out 4 million, 5 million people living within a defined space. What it means is that if you are able to reduce air pollution in that defined space, you protect a lot more lives in the end. It's been a great success so far. We didn't have data for most of these cities. Over time, we're getting the numbers.
Oh dear, Elvis, we seem to be losing you. If you can reposition rightly and just make that point again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Loud and clear now.
Okay. What I was saying was that over time, what we've done in the last 2 years is to get the needed baseline data, which will let people know how they're being exposed to air pollution. It is also to create awareness among people of different levels. So we do have activations in transport stations, we have activations in offices, we have activations in markets, and we do have trainings for public officials to train them to create the awareness and to bring it to their attention that the air you're breathing in, which is essential to life, has to be protected at the end of the day.
And
ultimately,
finally,
we are hoping we can have some policy changes that would drive the action and help us achieve clean air in these cities and across the country as a whole.
And that's where I was going to, because I was just wondering at what point government can come on board, because we're looking at the different policy changes that must occur, as well as enforcement changes that must occur to ensure that Ghana and Africa and even Accra is on track. From where you sit, what policy changes can government adopt, or enforcement changes can we deploy moving forward?
It's actually with a lot of joy talking about this. In the last 12 months, at the beginning of the year, the Ghana EPA Act was passed, which made the EPA move from being an agency to an authority. In September 2025, they passed the Air Pollution management regulation. That regulation being passed meant that government is supposed to monitor air quality across the country. Government is supposed to keep a database of air pollution. Districts are supposed to be monitoring air quality, and they're supposed to enforce activities that would pollute the air such that our air is protected. So we have a wonderful policy which we're hoping can be enforced and can be mainstreamed. As part of that regulation, there's supposed to be a development of a national air quality policy enshrined in that regulation. Ultimately, there are timelines to achieving these regulation targets. And we're hoping that the agency and other government stakeholders would be able to completely implement and enforce these regulations so we can see the success by protection of human health and also by enjoyment of the quality of life by citizens in the country.
Thank you so much, Dr. Elvis, for your time here on The Pulse. Well, we just brought you that story. It was in collaboration with New Narratives. Funding was provided by Clean Air Fund, and they had no say in the story's content. Now we're focusing here on how our air can be cleaner and better for us, especially in the capital. You're still watching The Pulse. After this quick turn, we'll be back with more. Please stay with us.